But I'll never forget the look that I saw on Derek's face that day when he was pulling as tight as he could whatever cord he had wrapped around her neck. I'm a pretty big fella, and I wouldn't want anybody to use all their strength to pull something around my neck. I'll never forget how red April's eyes were when I saw her in the ambulance. She's very, very lucky to be alive.
Now, this case might sound familiar to you. It's something that you may have watched on crime TV. It's something you may have seen in the news. Back in 2000, he went into Walmart where his wife worked. You see, he was going through a divorce, and poor baby, he said it was going to be so expensive. So he thought it would be a good idea to murder her right there in the Walmart. He brought a shotgun and he brought a cord, and he wanted to strangle her. Now, it was really by the heroic actions of one of her coworkers and then the police coming in time that she is still alive today. But we're now going to watch a parole hearing for a man that did those things. And I want you to stick around to the end because there is a bit of a plot twist. So with that, let's jump in.
Yes, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, my name is Derek Lee DAIGLE Sr., 451360.
Okay, so Mr. Daigle, I'm going to read some identifying information into the record. I'll ask you to verify that information, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Marabella as your case has been assigned to him.
Yes,
He'll
ma'am.
present your case, ask you some questions. We'll allow the other board members to ask you some questions if they have any, and then we'll hear from those folks. We'll hear from the folks at Allen, Warden Cooley. And then we'll hear from the folks who are here with us today and indicated they'd like to speak on your behalf. And then we'll also hear from the victims. And then at the very end, you'll be allowed to make a statement if you'd like to do so.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay.
Thank
So
you.
you are Derek L. Daigle Sr., DOC number 451360. You were sentenced on March 11th, 2002 as a first offender for second-degree kidnapping and attempted manslaughter, for which you received a 32-year sentence.
Yes,
You do not have parole eligibility. You have a good time date, which is June 5th, 2027. Your full term date is March 18th, 2033. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am. That is correct.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Marabella.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Daigle. My name is Tony Marabella. How are you today, sir?
Good, sir. And how are you?
I'm doing fine. Mr. Daigle, I'm going to put a few things in the record, and then I'm going to ask some questions of you. If you have any questions about anything that I ask you, please make sure that I clarify my questions. I want you to answer what I'm asking you, okay?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Daigle, it's my understanding that you were originally charged with attempted second-degree murder, 2 counts of aggravated battery and aggravated assault with a firearm, and you were convicted by a jury of second-degree kidnapping and attempted manslaughter. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
And in 2000, the facts of the case is that you were holding your then wife, I believe, Miss April Daigle, hostage at a Walmart pharmacy with a shotgun, as well as a cord wrapped around her neck. You threatened to kill her, yourself, and you hit another woman in the head with the butt of that shotgun. Is that accurate? Is that basically what happened?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
I note that in your application, you are requesting that we grant you a commutation to the number of years you were offered in a plea bargain that you turned down. Is that
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes,
You
sir.
were offered 25 years and you turned that down?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay. You're also suggesting that your sentence was excessive.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
You don't concede that what you did was a horrible crime?
Oh, no, sir. If I may, I definitely know that that is the case, sir. And I'm just asking the board for lenience and mercy to commute it to that length. There's no disputing the fact that I deserved every day of the punishment that I've got, sir. What I'm asking for is the board to have mercy upon me and for leniency.
Well, I guess my concern in your application is that you were suggesting that the judge who sentenced you gave you an excessive sentence for the crime that you committed. Is that your position?
Well, sir, my only position was I was just asking the board to determine whether it was when they was offered 25 years and then they sentenced me to 32. And based off of the fact that I just pled not guilty and went to trial with it, I was given 7 more years. And I wasn't saying that the judge was wrong or the jury was wrong or anybody. I'm just basically asking the board to give me that sentence that I was originally offered. I didn't mean it to sound like I was saying that the judge blatantly over sentenced me, sir. That's not what I was trying to, and to say.
Mr. Daigle, on your behalf, you have submitted, and I have reviewed some videos, or at least one video with a number of people on it. I'm not certain who the evangelist or who the preacher was, but I watched that video. Mr. Aaron Navarre spoke on your behalf. Mr. Jerry LeBlanc spoke on your behalf. Mr. Jason Winterbottom spoke on your behalf. A young woman whose name I did not get spoke on your behalf. And your brother and your sister both spoke on your behalf. They are suggesting support for you. I want to tell you that there is near, if not across the board, unanimous opposition to your being released. Law enforcement is opposed to your being released, and certainly both victims in this case are opposed to your release at this particular time. I have reviewed your record, and it certainly appears that you have done a lot of things while you've been in prison. I am particularly interested in knowing the programs that you've attended, the programs that you have completed, and what you've learned. You write extensively about a program in Lake Charles called OASIS. You write extensively about the work that you've done with domestic violence, which of course this is a hallmark case of. So I'm going to ask you, if you would please, tell me about the programs that you've taken. Tell me about OASIS. Tell me about the things that you've done. And you indicate in your application it has really changed you. I'm interested in knowing those things. So I'm going to ask you, please, to tell me about the domestic violence programs you've taken and what you've learned and how that's changed you.
Yes, sir. First of all, I would like to speak about the OASIS partnership. And that came from the first, 11 years I was in prison. You sit in prison and you see offender organizations and they do things for society. And they try to make a difference for people in society, even though that you're in prison. And me and the president of our organization, I just ran it by him. I said, listen, nobody in society, and much less in prison, that's doing anything to help women and children that are abused. So we asked a sponsor of ours to call a local shelter in Oasis, and they did. And we asked if they would come up here and accept the donation off of our organization's behalf, and they did. And from there, a partnership was started. We started holding Domestic Violence Awareness Month balloon releases on the compound. We made annual donations. We also did a Sexual Violence Awareness Month balloon releases in April. And it just spread to about 3 or 4 events every year and things like that. But when those women came here and they spoke and you saw the trouble, you listen to their stories and about them and their children. And, you think back on your life and the mistakes that you made and the trouble that you caused. And my crime was petty. It was senseless and it was selfish. And to this day, it still makes me sick. That I hurt innocent people. They didn't deserve it. But this partnership was a way to, you can never take back the crime that happened and what you did. but you can darn sure put a foot forward going into the future to try to impact and change the lives of women and children out there in society. There's not a lot of men support in society. We hear it a lot of times. And those programs have actually turned into awareness and prevention classes here that Ms. Kathy Williams and I also co-facilitate together. And just when you hear these women's stories and the things their children go through, you don't realize the ripple effect that you have when you commit a crime. And what I mean by that is you look at the sudden impact. And when you're 20 years old, like I was too foolish to realize the 20 years later that people are still hurting. But getting to your part about the other programs, I've taken Thinking for a Change, and I also co-facilitate that. And I personally want to thank the Department of Corrections and Allen Correctional Center and Assistant Warden Keith Cooley here and all of the staff, because that program is the best program in the Department of Corrections. Every day I co-facilitate that class, I get to put my life on the line in front of the class and show them what not to do, how to think for a change, apologize, not gonna write a book on it, and understanding the feelings of others. And don't get me wrong, cage your rage, and it teaches you about how to manage your anger and what causes anger. That's good. And also living in balance, where it teaches you about triggers, cravings, and avoiding relapse, as well as anger and communication. But there's just no other program in DOC like Thinking for a Change. So those are the three programs. And St. Kobe Prison Ministry. I don't know if all of you know what St. Kobe Prison Ministry is, but when the Department of Corrections allowed this Christian group to come into these facilities, it changes people. I went to my first retreat on February of 2019, and my life was changed. As hard as it is to forgive yourself for doing wrong, it wasn't until last February that I was actually able to do that and move on and just continue to do better things, sir.
Tell me about what was going on in your life and with you at the time this was happening.
Sir, I was immature. There's no excuse for what I did, none at all. I mean, there was a accident that something transpired the day before. Actually, I feel like I don't want to use that as an excuse, sir, because nobody made me do what I did. There was an incident where property was taken from the house and money out of the bank, but it gave me no right, sir, to go and commit an offense against a person. And Louisiana sent DAIGLE a strong message that crime and acts of violence against people, place, or things will not be tolerated. And that message has been well received.
Let's talk a little bit about while you've been in prison. You've had one disciplinary write-up, is that right?
Yes, sir. Obedience and discipline is something that I take great pride in, sir. It's the least I could do to try to right the wrongs.
And you've been in jail for how long now?
20 years and a month. Since September 20th of 2000, sir.
Now, prior to this incident, you did have another act of violence on your record. Tell me about that.
Yes, sir. It was August 10th of 1998 in Sulphur, Louisiana. And we were going to my brother's house. Me, my father, and my mother were driving to Sulphur to get our dog back that he had taken from the house. When we got there, actually on the way there, my mother and father were behind me in a vehicle, and they flagged down a police officer. So I seen that they had stopped, and of course I couldn't stop on the highway. I kept going. When I got to my brother's, at the time, his in-laws at the time, an argument ensued between me and my brother, which was, it was common for family members. But a guy across the street, he had to have been about 25 maybe, came out of the house with a shotgun, pointing it at me and my baby brother. And I did have a baseball bat, sir, because there was a crowd of people coming towards me and my younger brother. However, I never swung the bat when the officer showed up, but obviously he did see me with it. And those charges were later dropped, so they weren't even pursued. But I do want to say this about that. It was another occasion where DAIGLE put himself in a stupid situation and should just let the law handle it. They arrested the guy that pulled the gun on us. But we went before Judge Tom Quirk. He asked both families what happened, and there was witnesses. His in-law said that I never committed any crime, but I did. I shouldn't have tried to even be there to handle it on my own, sir. So I need to. I've learned to put myself in better situations and let other people handle it.
Mr. Daigle, what would you say to the victims today, one of which is on this Zoom? What would you say to those victims today that are very fearful of your getting out of prison?
First of all, the words can't express the wholehearted remorse and sorrow that I feel for what I did. I've lived with it for 20 years, day and night. I've regretted, and not because of what it cost to Derek Daigle, but when I look back on it, I just ruined so many lives. I've shattered lives. I took away their security, their comfort, their peace. It's all the things that I didn't see when I committed the offense. I wish I would have been who I am today. I wish I would have cared about people and been more sympathetic. And that's why I've worked so hard in these 20 years to change and to be somebody that people can look up to. I was a follower when I was in society. And now I'm looked upon in the prison population as a leader. But I totally understand the opposition. I totally respect it. I understand their views. I mean, for 19 years, I hated myself too, until I went to St. Kobe Prison Ministry, and I realized that my spiritual life could never move forward as long as I held that bitterness and that anger towards me. And what I would say is I just beg for mercy and for forgiveness.
Thank you very much. Madam Chairman, that's all the questions I have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Marabella. Mr. Roche?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Daigle. How are you?
Good morning, sir.
Mr. Daigle, I know you covered this a little bit with Mr. Marabella. Tell us tell us what you are requesting today.
Yes, sir. I'm asking the board to take the 32-year sentence that I received and commute it to 23 years, sir. And the reason I asked that, sir, is because I just asked the board to take into consideration what I've been able to do with my life in the 20 years that I've been locked up. And I understand the crime, sir, and the board members. I'm not taking away from that. I stand before you today condemned, convicted, and outright guilty of what I did. But I'm just asking the board for mercy.
Now, so you asking us to take the wisdom of the judge who heard the case, heard all the evidence, and listened to all the witnesses and everything. In his judgment, he thought 32 years was appropriate, even though he gave you that sentence without benefit of probation, parole, or suspension and sentence. But even if we applied the statute, the Louisiana statute, of 32 years and 85% of 32 years would be 28 years. You already have a good time date in 2027. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So you're not in a impossible situation. You do have an out date. It's established by your good time date. And if this panel deemed it was appropriate to apply the Louisiana statute for a violent crime, it would be 85% of that, which would give you a parole eligibility date 1 year later than your good time date. So you have a better date now, even if I would apply the Louisiana statute to your sentence. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're correct.
Now, at the time you commit this crime, I would have deemed you a danger to public safety. You went into a public place with a firearm, put a extension cord or some kind of rope around a loved one's neck. Now, I understand this was your wife. Am I correct?
Yes, sir, you're correct.
And you injured a very innocent person who had nothing to do with the situation. Am I correct?
Yes, sir, you're correct.
And even though it was not prosecuted and the charges were dropped, this is the second time you were charged with a violent offense. So tell me why I should give you any consideration, because maybe in the future, one of your triggers will go off again and you'll do the same thing.
Yes, sir. First of all, I would like to say this, sir. There's absolutely 0% chance that I reoffend and commit another crime. And the sole reason for me asking the board to commute my sentence to 23 years is based solely on the fact of what I've been able to do with my life in the 20 years that I've been locked up thus far. I've taken countless programs and I've taught these programs. I've made sure that my disciplinary record was the best that I could keep it. And I still fret over the one simple disobedience that I do have in it. I'm a leader of the compound. I help administration staff and security out. And so the only thing I'm asking is that the board thoroughly evaluate and review my parole packet, statements from staff, statement of facts. These people live with me. They're here every day. They know me probably better than my own family does. And like I said, sir, from the time I was 20 and before, I probably wasn't worthy of your mercy and your compassion. But I'm asking the board solely off of the last 20 years, because I can never take away the crime, even 10 years from now, as bad as I want to, as much as I want to change my stupidity and my actions. Ladies and gentlemen, I said it was a crime of violence. I said it was a crime of passion during my trial, and that was wrong. It was an act of stupidity and selfishness solely on DAIGLE's part. And for that, I wholeheartedly apologize. I just asked the board to thoroughly evaluate and review the 20 years that I spent behind bars and the things that I've been able to accomplish in those 20 years, sir.
Mr. DAIGLE, and I do understand that, and I read your record. You've done a lot of things. You've done a lot of good. You probably helped a lot of individuals facilitating different programs. But incarceration is for rehabilitation. It's also for isolation. I don't think you are in need of rehabilitation at this point. I don't think you need to be isolated. But also has a third component, retribution. We have victims in this crime who are still physically and emotionally affected by your offenses. We have the entire legal community, the district attorney's office, the sheriff's office, and the chief of police adamantly opposed to your release. That opposition is also a part of this process, because they feel as though 20 years is not enough retribution for the damage that you've done to society. Would you agree with me on that?
Yes, sir. I totally agree.
I will listen, Mr. DAIGLE. I have not made a decision. I will listen, and I'll come up with a decision at the end of the interview. Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Mr. Wise?
Well, Mr. DAIGLE, good morning. I do want to say this. You've done some great things since you've been there. You've been currently 15 years right up free. As I look over your programs, there are some real strong programs. Your anger management on down to all the things that you've done since you've been in. I got to commend you on that. There's still a victim in this case. But one of the things, if you live in the Lake Charles area, is that correct?
Sir, could you repeat that question? You kind of cut out on me for a second.
I said, you live in the Lake Charles area, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct. That's where I was born and raised.
Yes, sir. And that's where you're going to currently live, right?
Sir, actually, and as again, I would like to state that I totally understand the opposition's view and their position on my release. I totally understand that. And even though I did submit 2 residence plans within that parish of Calcasieu, I also asked the board to strongly weigh and consider the fact that I've also submitted a residence plan in Denham Springs, Louisiana, with my brother and sister-in-law, which is about 2 hours and 10 minutes away. And I've also submitted an interstate compact to Nashville, Tennessee, to reside with my aunt and uncle. That interstate compact is currently pending as we speak, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't have any other questions.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Jones, do you have any questions or comments?
Unmute your mic, Mr. Jones. Mr. Thomas Jones, unmute your mic.
No, I was asking Mr. Victor Jones if he had any questions.
Mr. Victor,
I
I
apologize.
apologize. I apologize. Sorry.
I'll get to you in a minute.
No comment.
Okay.
No comment.
Okay, thank you. I have a question, Derek. For the crime that we're speaking of,
Yes, ma'am.
was that your first incident of domestic violence?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. That wasn't the first one.
Okay.
I mean, there were arguments, there were verbal arguments, there was things that happened at home that I certainly hold myself accountable and responsible for. I was far from a perfect man, Ms. Renata.
Okay. Well, thank you for your honesty.
Yes, ma'am.
Warden Cooley, is there any input from the facility?
Ms. Renata, I mean, it's been covered pretty well. Derek's participation, like you said, he's been here at this unit since 2002 with one write-up. He's been very active in programs since he's been here. And he has been taking the lead on a lot of things, and he's been very active. So, no, I think the board has done well in reviewing that information, and so has Derek.
All right, thank you. So let's see. I think I see Miss Kathy Williams would like to speak on Derek's behalf.
Excuse me, Miss Renata.
Yes.
We have a late attendant, Mr. Jeffrey Keenum. He's with the Lake Charles Police Department, and he's in opposition and would like to speak.
Okay, thank you. We'll hear from, thank you, I appreciate it. We'll hear from Ms. Williams first.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes, you are.
Okay. My name is Kathy Williams, and I am the Executive Director of OASIS, a safe haven for survivors of domestic and sexual violence, and have been for 10 years now. For 7 years, we've had a relationship with the Sports Education Association at Allen Correctional. Derek was instrumental in getting that started. It has spreaded from that organization to also the incarcerated veterans, the Benevolent Brotherhood, and the JCs. We have taught classes over and over. A lot of the classes that we teach are domestic violence. We also do sexual assault, as well as sex trafficking, teen dating violence, bullying, pretty much everything that we do in society, we do there at the prison with these individuals. And Derek co-facilitates all those classes with me. I did not know Derek 20 years ago. I've known him for about 7 now. And honestly, I hope that there's some leniency and he is able to come out, because I need him in society. And I tell him that on a regular basis. If we had men in our society that stand up against domestic violence, like Derek DAIGLE does, incarcerated, there wouldn't be domestic violence in our area. And Louisiana, ranks #2 in the nation for the most women killed due to domestic violence. And he speaks regularly. He stands up in front of his community there in the prison and tells what he did. He takes responsibility for that. And what I would like for him to do on the outside, and what he wants to do with us on the outside, is to go with me and talk. talk to kids, talk to individuals, talk to different groups, and help prevent those things from happening. He can talk from the standpoint that I can't. He talks from the person that's actually done that and done the time to do for that. And I just hope that he gets leniency and is able to come out and help us in our community, because we truly need men that will stand up and know what they're talking about in our community. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you. And we appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we're going to hear from the opposition. It is I don't know if it's Mr. Thomas Jones or Miss April Jones that's going to speak.
My name's Thomas Jones. Thank you for seeing us this morning. My name is Thomas, as I stated. My wife is April Jones. We have a daughter, Catherine Jones, and a son named Colin Jones. We've been married for 16 years. I've taken many notes as we've been sitting here and listening to Mr. Daigle speak today, and I have a few comments to make about this. First off, the only reason why he gave an apology was when he was provoked. The very first thing I personally would have done was to give a personal apology to all the victims in here. None of that occurred. In our previous hearing that we had a couple of years ago, he took zero responsibility. Now all of a sudden he has accountability and responsibility for it. I think not. This whole conference was about Derek Daigle, not about the victims that are here. Miss Catherine, who my daughter is named after, is someone that was very important to my family. And her name was not brought up in this mention. I think this is just unbelievable. We are adamantly against this communication. Speaking of children, my wife has taken a life sentence, not a 28-year, not a 32-year sentence, a life sentence. She's the one who doesn't sleep. She's the one that has the nightmares. She's the one that is fearful when she fell to her knees in the parking lot whenever we received that he was up for our clemency hearing. We are the ones that are dealing with this every day. Her family, her mother, her father. It's not just April. It's her sister. It's the entire family. It's in fact dozens and dozens of individuals. And today I see remorse that is only provoked because he's trying to accomplish something this morning. I apologize for my frustration, but this is personally how I feel. My wife is fearful right now that cannot even get on this computer screen because she's been in tears all morning. This has been going on for months and months and months and years and years and years. And it's not going away when Mr. Daigle is released. He talks about doing good work there. We'll stay there and do that good work because we're fearful as a community that when he gets released, that we have to deal with this on this end. That's all I have to say at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Is it Mr. Keenum from the Lake Charles PD? Sir, we'd like to hear from you.
Okay, I was one of the investigating officers in this case about 20 years ago, and it's one of the most horrific experiences that I've had in my 28-year law enforcement experience in my career. Had April not shown up early that day, I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe she would have been murdered in the parking lot. No question about it. For whatever reason, she showed up to work early that day and was inside. I just familiarized myself with this report, and there were several other victims who were held at gunpoint and ordered to move to a certain area behind Mr. Daigle's actions. I have nothing personal against Mr. Daigle. I'm simply going to bat for the victim as I would for any victim. I don't pretend to remember what his sentence was. We just simply would like him to finish his sentence. I'm all about second chances, but I think he'll get his second chance one day in the near future. He will, but this was his chance. She is very, very lucky to be with us today. I think one of the doctors who saw her said had she been choked out for a few more seconds, she would have passed away. It's a miracle that no one got serious. Well, I mean, she was seriously hurt, but I'll never forget the look that I saw on Derek's face that day when he was pulling as tight as he could whatever cord he had wrapped around her neck. I'm a pretty big fella, and I wouldn't want anybody to use all their strength to pull something around my neck. I'll never forget how red April's eyes were when I saw her in the ambulance. She's very, very lucky to be alive. I hope Derek is doing great things in prison. I hope he continues to do that. I hope he is remorseful for what happened, because it was uncalled for, unacceptable. And I'm glad that he's speaking out against domestic violence. I think we're all against domestic violence, but he committed the domestic violence. He did it. No one else on this picture did. No one else on this screen did. I think he was offered a deal with the DA's office of 25 years. I think he rejected that. And God rest her soul, and went in front of Judge Patty Madaldi. And I think she found him guilty. I don't remember. I wasn't present for the trial. I was out of town. But I think she found him guilty, or a jury found him guilty, and he was sentenced to 32 years, if my memory serves me correct. I could be way off. So again, I have nothing against Derek or his family. If the roles were reversed, I'd be going to bat for him if he were the victim. I'm just standing up for law enforcement and what I believe in my heart is right. And Derek did wrong, and there's consequences to his actions.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for taking the time to be with us this morning. We
Yes,
appreciate your input.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Derek, is there anything you'd like to say to us to wrap it up and address your remarks to the board, please?
Yes, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I would just like to reiterate my actions on the day of this crime were outright inexcusable, and they were unjustifiable. I mean, they were senseless, they were reckless, and they were selfish. And since that day, I've witnessed firsthand the ripple effect and the trail of destruction that my actions and crimes created on so many people, most importantly, the victims and their families, for the traumatic and devastating impact and effect. That my actions and crimes had on them, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Secondly, my family were also victims. They were secondary victims of my stupidity and my selfish crimes. And they're still suffering today because of my actions. Thirdly, to all the local law enforcement and first responders who were on the scene that day. I've sat back and watched just how reckless I was. I feel like I know I put their lives in danger that day by doing what I did in my community. The overall negative impact and effect that my actions had on my whole community. Ladies and gentlemen, as I stated earlier, this wasn't a crime of passion, like I claimed in trial. It was a crime of stupidity and selfishness solely on my part. And I never could have dreamed or imagined how many people you could hurt with just one stupid and foolish action. I just want the board to know for this, I wholeheartedly apologize. Words can't express my wholehearted remorse and sorrow that I feel for the victims and their families and for everyone that suffered at the hands of Derek DAIGLE. But there's one word in the dictionary that completely changed my life over the last 20 years. It's the word empathy. And that means putting a shoe on the other foot. As a parent, what her mother and father went through, I can imagine that because I have a child. I can imagine the pain that every one of the victims felt. And as I look at this computer screen today, I just see pictures of just broken lives that I know I shattered. And I just want to be able to fix it. But I would like to say this before closing. In the last 20 years, I've made every possible effort and I've taken every possible measure imaginable to make amends, to rehabilitate. I've taken the programs. I've done everything you could do to get to the point where I'm at now. And I just asked the board in closing for mercy and compassion. Ask the board for a second chance to allow me to prove to this honorable board that I'm my worth to society and that I'm not a risk, a threat, or a liability. But most importantly, ladies and gentlemen of the board, I ask you to allow me to prove to you that granting Derek DAIGLE commutation of sentence will be the very best pardon and parole decision that you all have ever made. And in return, I'll show you a true success story. I can guarantee the board that. And I'll close with this, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you so much for your time today. I want to reiterate, I asked the board to thoroughly evaluate and review the fact that I do have 2 out of the parish residences. I would like to, I wouldn't mind leaving the city or the state, if that made the victim feel comfortable or whatever it may be, to ensure their peace, because I can assure you today that the victims and their families will live a peaceful life. They'll have no communication from me whatsoever. And ladies and gentlemen, I just thank you so much for your time today. God bless.
All right. Thank you, Derek. Is the board, sir?
Yes,
Sir?
ma'am. May I say just a few words?
Yes, sir. If you can keep it brief.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Kurt Daigle. I'm Derek's dad. Over the past 20 years, I watched Derek change from an immature person to a real man of repentance. He's a born-again, spirit-filled Christian, which testifies of a heart change. I know the opposition, they've made their case, but the fact of the matter is, this young man has changed. I'm a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I know jailhouse conversions from true repentance. This is true repentance. And I'm asking you to let us have our son back. Ma'am, I'm getting old. My wife's old. We have issues health-wise. We need our son. And whether it's 20 or 32 years, it's been a long road. I assure law enforcement, I assure the victims, they will never, ever be in danger. Because if you release him to my home, we have curfew at my house. He's going to get involved in church, that I'm fixing to start a church in Sulphur, Louisiana, by God's direction. And I guarantee you that he will not be like others that go back out and recommit crimes. And I want to thank Senator Mark Abraham. I want to thank you, the board, for giving us time to express our beliefs and opinions. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Daigle. Mr. Marabella?
Yes, ma'am.
Ready
Thank
to
you, Madam
vote?
Chairman. Mr. Daigle, I have reviewed your file in its entirety. I've listened to you talk. I've listened to your supporters. I've listened to those who are opposed to you. And I want to commend you for all of the things that you have accomplished while you've been in prison. You have done tremendous work. Your work with the Oasis project, your work that you've done in attempting to rehabilitate yourself, all of those things are very, very commendable. You have one write-up in 20 years of being there. You have a low risk of recidivism. You have done quite remarkably. I have concerns. This is an extremely difficult case. Not that all cases aren't hard. This one is extremely difficult. And what we have to do, or what I have to do, is I have to try to read everything that I see in your file, who you are and what you've done. As I indicated to you when I was talking to you, your application is replete with complaints about an excessive sentence. You say you were just a first offender and the judge punished you for going to trial. I'm here to tell you that isn't how it works. A defendant has an absolute right to go to trial, and judges often consider lesser sentences for people who take plea bargains because they don't put victims through the rigor of having to repeat everything that happened to them. But that didn't happen in your case. You chose to go to trial, and that was your right. 100% your right. You gambled and you lost. The judge, having listened to all of the facts, determined that the sentence you should receive was more severe than what you were offered. And that's what the judge did. And I see that you continue to claim you were penalized, which I do not believe. I applaud you for what you've done. You do have a good time release date in 2027. And I think that is sufficient under these circumstances. So it's going to be my recommendation that we deny your request. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Marabella. Mr. Roche?
Madam Chairman, I'd like to echo every word that Mr. Marabella just stated, and my vote is the same.
Mr. Wise?
At this time, I'm gonna vote the same as Mr. Marabella on the same conditions.
Mr. Jones, Victor Jones?
Madam Chairman, I listened to all of it, and Mr. Daigle, you've done well while you've been incarcerated. I would like to, I heard the other board members speak, and my concerns with the victims and everything, their concerns, and my vote today would be to deny and ask you to continue your good work while incarcerated.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Daigle, you've received 4 votes to deny your application for clemency. So that is the outcome of today's proceedings.
Yes, ma'am.
And I want to thank everybody who participated in this proceeding today. I think that concludes our business at Allen Correctional Center. So we will adjourn from there. The time is 9:40.
Okay, and they denied, and here's the plot twist. We're going to see his 2025 parole hearing, another bite at the apple, 2 years before he finishes his full sentence. And it's interesting because this parole board, they have been super tough. So I wonder what's going to come down in this case. You know, it's interesting. In other states, he would have been paroled probably 2 or 3 years into his sentence. That's not, you know, that's not even a joke. We've seen people in Connecticut who have shot other people 5 times, repeat felons, not first-time offenders, getting paroled after 3 years. It would be like 3 years for 3 bullets in someone, right? So it's the strangest thing. We've covered cases from Iowa where someone strangled and murdered his roommate, hid the body, got away with it for 10 years, paroled after 9 years. So it is a crazy thing if you go state by state. In this case, he wasn't even successful at killing her, and he still got a long sentence. Now, it is quite interesting to say, you know, I love Marabella. He was a judge for like 8 bajillion years. So you get his perspective and the way that he was, that, you know, I'll talk about this a little bit more and then we'll go into the next parole hearing. I just want to get some things off my chest. Otherwise, I'll forget about it before we finish the next hearing. So if you want to skip ahead, skip ahead. But he was a judge, so he understands the lingo and the way that he talks about it, right? And he's saying, hey, it's not that you got the long sentence because you didn't take the deal. You know, his logic was, hey, I should take this was the deal they offered me. And he brings up, you know, you put it's your right, but you put the victims through the trauma of having to relive it, and then the judge saw how horrific the crime was and felt you needed more time. Now, you know, it is interesting. We have seen so many cases where we've even seen sex offenders go to trial and the judge not give the maximum sentence. So it seems to go, but they, you know, we have seen first time drug dealers, first time offenders go to trial and then have the book thrown at them to the max. So it is like, I think Mr. Marabella said, he gambled and he lost. I think that was the right way to put it, because it is a big gamble and he lost big. You know, there's a few things that are interesting about this case. I like that the police officer came. We don't see that. Very rarely do we see that. But it was interesting, his statement saying it was one of the most horrific crimes that he's seen in the 28 years in the force. And it brings 2 things to my mind. One is either it's an exaggeration, because you gotta assume 28 years that you have seen unimaginable things, or there was just something that was so horrific about it that it just stuck with him in a way that, seeing probably her eyes, seeing it just hit home differently again. So we have it. I'll read the story. Thank you, Lady Holly, for pulling this, because there's some good art. She said, "Oh, this is a good article." So it'll just read it through, because I think it does touch on a little bit of details that we didn't get into. And there's something funny also is that their family ran a petition to get him released, um, a petition for clemency. It got 41 supporters of its 1,000-person goal over a 10-year period. And this is the thing, even in the petition, this is what the board was talking about. We, the people of Louisiana, do request that Derek be granted clemency after having served 15 years of a 32-year sentence. So this was 5 years before this parole hearing that we just saw. His sentence of 32 years was excessive and are requesting a release back into society. Since his incarceration, he's become a changed man. He has respected the system, da 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 da. And he got 41 votes. I love it. So, yeah, let me read you the article. And then also I do want to talk about the supporter, Kathy William, with the Oasis Women's Shelter, before I forget too, because she shows up here. To me, that just seems really weird. I'm only speculating. I have no idea. There's no proof. But I wonder if there's a relationship between them. And if there is, man, that should be revealed. But because I have no idea how you would go and advocate. To me, it seems like hypocrisy. To me, it seems disgusting. To me, it seems. Now, tell me if I'm wrong. A lot of you watching this are women who have been in these situations. I will tell me if I'm wrong. I want you to tell me if I'm wrong here. But I couldn't imagine going to being someone who has been abused by men or by an ex or by whatever, and then sitting and listening to a man who's tried to strangle his wife in Walmart, to be in the same room with him. I mean, to me, that would, like you don't know what level. There might be some women that are okay with it, but I can imagine there are others that they're listening to this man and then they hear him talk and they might just get triggered. They might go down spiral. Not only that, but what message are you even sending? Because so much about being in abusive relationships are men who abuse and then gaslight and manipulate that same woman to come back into their lives. And it's that vicious cycle of abuse and then charm and manipulate and then abuse. So you're just like reinforcing that cycle by putting a man who tried to strangle his wife now in front of you to say how he's changed. It's like, how would it be any different than what this woman has been dealing with the past 5, 10, 50, maybe her whole life? It just seems wild to me. You don't need someone like him talking to women of abuse. You need women who escape men like him. You need the victim, the survivor, talking to women of abuse. You need maybe you need the survivor's husband who spoke up there and talked about that she couldn't even get up there because of how it affected her. And good on him, that husband standing up there. That's what a man is. That's what a man is. That's the man that should be talking to these woman groups, not this guy. Tell me if I'm wrong, but it's messed up. You run an organization. I don't get it. It smells rotten to me. Okay, that's my rant. I had to get that off my chest. All right, so this is another series of vignettes about a crime at Walmart. Jury section began this week, Lake Louisiana. According to the American Press newspaper, September 19, 2000, April DAIGLE, a Walmart employee, decided to move out of her husband's Derek Daigle, when Derek returned home that evening to find his wife gone, he went to his parents' home to get a shotgun. So she moves out. She's a survivor. She does what she needs to do. She moves out. And what does he do? We didn't even have this context really. He goes and gets the shotgun and considered killing himself. Oh, too bad. The next day, Derek went into I take that back. I don't think anyone should. But what I do, what I cannot stand are when they say, "Oh, I'm going to kill them and take myself," and then they always kill the person and don't do it. You get what I'm saying? Okay. Next day, Derek went to Walmart with the shotgun. Witnesses say that Derek entered the Walmart through the Gardens Center and headed towards the pharmacy where April worked. Derek leveled the gun at the workers in the pharmacy and ordered them to get behind the counter. Daigle pulled his wife behind the counter and began to strangle her with a cord. It is interesting, too. It's like he could have just blasted her, but I guess he wanted it to be personal, you know? He wanted that. He wanted to actually kill her with a cord. This is the things that they don't, Mr. Roche said, I don't think you're a danger to society, but there's retribution here. I love that line that he says, 3 reasons for being locked up. Rehabilitation, to protect society, and retribution. But it's just, anyways, employees called 911, and when the police arrived, Derek was still on the ground behind the counter strangling his wife. Derek told the police that he was going to kill his wife and himself. She's leaving, and it's going to get expensive, Derek reportedly told police. He then threatened to kill himself. During the scuffle with his wife, the police jumped over the counter and wrestled the weapon away from Derek. Gunman's attorney claimed, there's the attorney, I love it. Derek was not out to kill his wife. What happened wasn't nice. I know they have a job to do, but come on, come on. The attorney said it wasn't pretty and it wasn't right, but it wasn't attempted murder. A 12-member jury will decide, and the attorney is right. Just another family story that got out of hand. Another family story. Oh my God, what family are you in? Oh my gosh. Well, I don't think this was the article that Lady Hall actually recommended. This is a good article. Let's see. No, it was. Here's the one, and then we'll go into the hearing. Here's the one, I think Sir Richard found this one. They're working together, like hustling together on the spreadsheet. It's so cool. Sir Richard was really out for a long time because of his eyes. His eyesight just went on him. But he took a long break and I think got new glasses or surgery. I can't recall the details. But Lady Holly's hearing is gone. So she's been unable to watch any of the hearings. She really can't listen to them. And she's not one for reading subtitles. She likes to take long walks and she can't listen to them. She's getting her hearing aids for fixing, I think, a month. So, but it's been tough. Anyways, we'll thank them from the bottom of our hearts, and also security for all our oldest daughters, April for being alive. If Derek McLane's daughter, who was in danger when 20-year-old Derek Lee Daigle walked into Walmart on Nelson Road, so he was 20 when he did this, with a 12-gauge shotgun last week, minutes would go by before police could get to him. During that time, the heroic actions of Walmart employee Kevin Foster and Kathleen Wainage could have very well saved the life of 22-year-old April Daigle, Derek Estranged's wife, who worked in the pharmacy. Foster says, "I had to do something, so I headed towards the pharmacy." Lake Charles Mayor Randy Roach and Police Chief Sam Ivy awarded Foster and Wainage certificates of commendations for their heroism. It was an emotional moment for April's mother. Wainage did not want to talk about her hearing experience, so fellow coworker Tammy Higginbottom told Wainage, I can't pronounce, what is that? How do I pronounce that name? Wainage? She got on top of April and she tried to keep him from getting to her, he told her, to move in that show so she wouldn't move, and she wouldn't move because she felt like she had lived her life and she wanted April to be able to live hers. Wow. You know what kind of courage that takes? An angry man with a shotgun. And she's standing strong, feeling like, you know what, I've lived my life. That's just incredible. And when many employees are running for safety, Foster headed towards the pharmacy and tried to talk Daigle out of harming April until police took over. Foster says, I started walking towards him, and that's when I saw he had something around her neck. She was grasping for air, so I just started talking to him and telling him just to let go of her. Let go of her. Just take it off of her. It ain't worth it. April's father, Daryl McLaren, offered his thanks. Miss Wanage was ready to sacrifice her life for my daughter, and without her and Kevin, she would probably be dead. Foster says, I think if anyone else had been in my situation, they would have done the same thing. Hand in hand, Wanage and Foster humbly accepted their awards for bravery. Well, I mean, it's not true. People didn't do the same thing. They ran. Mayor Roach proclaimed Friday Kevin Foster and Catherine Wanage Day and gave them keys to the city. I love it. A great story of heroism. It feels like this day and age we see so often where those don't really do things like that. But anyways, this was a long middle break. So let's just go to this hearing. You think he's going to get paroled? Let's find out.
Mr. Daigle, you are classified as a first felony offender. You're currently serving a 32-year sentence. Sentenced in Calcasieu Parish in March of 2002 for second-degree kidnapping. You received a 32-year sentence and attempted manslaughter. That was a 20-year sentence, and those are running concurrently. Your parole eligibility date was March 25th, 2025, and your good time date has been adjusted to June 5th, 2027. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Right, so we'd like to hear your statement.
Yes, ma'am. The fact of the matter in my case is plain. I went to the victim's place of employment regretfully and wrongfully. I was armed with a dangerous weapon, and I did in fact commit the offense of attempted manslaughter by choking the victim with an electrical cord. Secondly, I did also in fact commit the offense of second-degree kidnapping when I held the victim against her own free will while armed with this dangerous weapon during the commission of a crime. And last but not least, I did in fact commit the offense of simple battery upon a second victim who was a co-worker of the first victim. She tried to intervene in the situation and she was accidentally hit with the weapon. My actions and my crime was a total stupidity and selfishness. It was downright senseless, and I'm still ashamed of it. And I do want to be clear, if I may, ladies and gentlemen, about acts and the crimes of violence must never be tolerated or accepted in our society. There's simply no place for it. I would like to add that over the last 25 years, I still can't come with the words to express the sorrow, regret, remorse, and the most sincerest and deepest apologies for my actions and for my crime and what it did to the victims physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, the list goes on. And I want this Honorable Committee on Parole to also recognize that I'm fully aware of the magnitude and the severity of my actions and the domino-like effect and the ripple effect that it caused on many others. Even my family were innocent victims due to my stupidity and selfishness, and my community. It's safe to say I failed a lot of people. And I would just like to ask the board to look at the computer screen at those in attendance today, whether in opposition or in favor. Look closely at the people involved in it as well as the people before you today. This is not even 10% of the lives that Derek Daigle damaged, ruined, and destroyed or tore apart due to the trail of destruction as in my crime. And what's worse and just as sickening is 25 years later, the aftermath has been just as difficult to watch. And I want to put it bluntly, and excuse my French, I'm not going to go all board, but I was a blank and you know what for doing what I did. And that's all I have for that particular question, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, well, you prepared well for that.
It's just from the heart. It's,
Warden, what can you tell us about Mr. Daigle?
Mr. Knox, I'll just speak to his incarceration. As Derek indicated, he's been here since actually 2002. He's done most of his time here at Allen. During that time, he's been no significant disciplinary problems to us at all. Back in 2004, early on in his incarceration, he did have one minor disciplinary report for aggravated disobedience. He's been active in programs since his time here, completing everything required. You know, and like I said, he's done his sentence well. I can say that on behalf of inmate Daigle.
Thank you, sir. Could we hear from Mr. Myers, the Parole Project, please?
Yes, good morning. Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. We're here to let the board know that we've accepted Derek Daigle as our client. Derek acting to our attention about 4 years ago through multiple people, through family, through supporters, through state officials, through multiple people because of Derek. Because Derek today, the person before you today, there's a significant difference between the 20-year-old man in crisis 25 years ago and the person who Derek actually is. Derek is a true first offender. He's, he committed a crime. There's a distinct difference between someone whose actions were criminal and someone who has criminal mentality. Derek obviously does not have criminal mentality. He served more than 25 years, or right at 25 years of his sentence, which is about 3/4 of his sentence. Parole Project is prepared to support Derek through his transition, through whatever conditions the board determines. He is also, as you've seen, when Derek started his rehabilitation, upon his incarceration, long before Derek thought or there was any chance that Derek would be parole eligible. We're prepared to work with Derek for his, again, for as long or whatever conditions this board would set forth. Derek has no intentions of ever residing in Calcasieu Parish again. He will work with our social work staff immediately upon release to get another evaluation. While he does have offers of employment, Derek will also work with our employment enhancement team to make sure he has gainful employment. And we would just ask this board to consider Derek's extensive record of accomplishments while he was in prison, his essentially lack of disciplinary problems, his own remorse. And Derek is prepared. Derek has prepared himself for this day. He's recognized his actions. He's prepared himself. And so we'd ask this board to grant his parole.
All right, thank you. Thank you. We'll hear from Mr. Jason Daigle. Jason?
All right. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you today. My name is Jason Daigle, and I'm 40 years old, and I'm Derek's younger brother. If Derek is granted parole, he will be coming home to live with me, my wife, and our 2 children, who are ages 9 and 5 years old. As all of you by now read my letter detailing why I believe Derek should be approved for parole, I want to take the time now to share exactly what his living situation will look like and how we will be there to support him every single day. Our home is safe, stable, and family oriented. My wife and I have been married now for, for over 11 years, and we've worked hard to create an environment built on love, structure, and mutual respect. We live in Denton Springs, Louisiana, and I work as a regional manager in the refill industry. We are financially secure, which means Derek will never have to worry about the basics. Roof over his head, food on the table, or transportation to work, programs, or appointment. He will walk into a home that is calm, consistent, and filled with people who want to see him succeed. But more than providing a place to live, we'll be giving him the foundation for success. From day one, we have clear expectations. Follow the rules of our home, maintain a productive daily routine, and seek steady employment, contribute to our household, and meet all parole requirements without exception. My wife and I are on the same page with this. We will not shy away from holding Derek accountable. That means being involved in his daily routines, having ongoing conversations about his progress, and making sure his actions align with his commitments. At the same time, we'll be there supporting him. We understand that reentry is not easy. There will be challenges along the way. That's why we will provide encouragement, guidance, and help him navigate those challenges in a healthy, constructive way. And our home, Derek will know that we're always in his corner, but he's also going to know that accountability will never take a backseat to comfort. Derek will also have the benefit of being surrounded by family who love him, including 2 young children who absolutely adore their uncle. They met him, they know him, they talk about him, they make a list of things they'd like to do with him. That list is extremely long, by the way. And they look forward to his phone calls every single week as it stands now. I do believe their presence will give him an extra sense of purpose and a daily reminder of why it's worth staying on track. I can promise you this, if Derek is granted parole, he will not just be released. He will be stepping into a strong, close-knit, and committed support system that will work tirelessly to help him succeed, and we will hold him to the highest of standards. We are ready for Derek, and we believe he's ready for this next chapter. Lastly, I'd like to leave this panel with this. When a person is born, they have 18 years to become an adult by society's standards. That's 18 years to learn, 18 years to grow, and 18 years to prepare for life. The state of Louisiana has had Derek for close to the last 25 years to rehabilitate him. In that time, he has grown, he's learned, and he's prepared himself for life beyond those walls. I believe with all my heart that time and work is now done. And now it's time to let him live. Thank you for considering.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Sloan? Okay, is there someone there that wants to speak at the facility?
Yes, ma'am. Miss Kathy Manuel is here in support.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't have that on my list. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Kathy Manuel, and I'm the Executive Director of OASIS, the Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency here in our Southwest Louisiana. And for the last 13 years, Derek got started programs up here at Allen Correctional through us. I've been coming up here with my staff doing events with inmates on a regular basis before the COVID hit and the hurricanes and things like that. But since that, we've also done classes. We do them every other week. And Derek helps facilitate that. He got those started. He went to the administration here to get those things going with us. He very openly shares his crime with the other offenders in those classes and his remorse for that and taking accountability. And recently his one of his brothers was murdered due to a domestic violence situation. And he openly talks about that now, how he sees from the victim's point of view, how that affects the family. I fully believe that Derek is a completely different person than he was when he committed this crime. I know that I've seen him grow over the last 13 years and just listening to him. He is more involved with our agency than most men out in the free society, which is one thing that he and I have discussed a lot, of him being able to assist the different domestic violence agencies across our state from his point of view to get men involved and to stand up for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. And I just hope that you see the same person that we see before you today and grant his release.
Well, thank you very much for sharing those thoughts with us. We appreciate it.
I guess on the Louisiana Parole Project on behalf of Derek Davis. At this point, you've already heard a lot about Mr. DAIGLE, but there's some additional things about him and the accomplishments that he's done over the past 25 years. First, you've heard a little bit about the OASIS program from Ms. Manuel, but I just wanted to take some time to emphasize the importance and the impact that that program has had in the knowledge of Louisiana. This committee is well aware that many people who are incarcerated in Louisiana only incarcerated following their involvement in instances of domestic and sexual violence. Yet there are very few opportunities for those folks to engage in specific training or programming related to this very widespread issue. Derek Daigle recognized that unfortunate gap, and he took action to rectify it. He started by raising money for victims of domestic violence and organizing presentations by his manual. But as an extremely regretful perpetrator of domestic violence himself, Mr. Daigle knew that both he and his community needed more. So Mr. Daigle, with the help of his manual and with the administration at Allen, created a domestic and sexual violence awareness and prevention course that he and other offenders have passed. Though it earns a no good time credit, he's been co-facilitating this program for the past 6 years. And this is a course that is not only focused on self-help for the participants, it's focused on public safety, victim impact, and the harm reduction. So Mr. Daigle didn't just participate in programming to support his rehabilitation, he helped create it. And he didn't just work to make change in himself, he worked to make a change in his community as well. And that to me is a true testament. I just want the board to be aware of the incredible, work happening in everyone, and take a moment to personally thank the staff, Samuel and Mr. Daigle for creating this team. Mr. Daigle's been remorseful for his actions from the moment he came to the he first met his defense attorney after the behalf of the opportunity to apologize to the victims and to everyone who had been involved. I understand his lawyer advised him to wait until after his case was adjudicated, but at his sentencing, he took time to express his heartfelt regret. He told the court he was wrong, ashamed, that he's sorry for the physical and emotional pain, embarrassment, and fear caused his victims, law enforcement against him. Those were his words, and that was 22 years into the remorse of Jesus today.
You are trash.
Thank you. Mr. Daigle, your case was assigned to Mrs. Ledoux. Would you answer any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Daigle.
Yes, ma'am.
There's not a lot of questions. I mean, everything that I've kind of been wondering about have addressed during the course of this hearing. I'd like for you, if you don't mind, it's not confidential. I'd like for you to state the names of your victims. I want to make sure you know the names.
Yes, ma'am. They're April Jones and they were Catherine Wanage. The long list of others that were in the story, Miss Rickle-Fisson, Miss Herbert, that was the ones I know for sure that I can recall that were in the story. I remember it like it was yesterday. But April Jones and Miss Catherine Wanage were the primary victims, ma'am.
You referred to them as the victims, I just want to make sure that, you understand who your victims were. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
You have some law enforcement opposition.
Yes, ma'am.
And you do have some victim opposition.
Yes, ma'am.
To your crime. You do have a good time date of 2027.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have earned 495 good time days.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Is that the max for him, Ward?
It is. Yes, it is, Ms. Ledoux.
It's the max. So you've done everything. You've maxed out on all of your classes, and you're still taking classes even though you don't earn good time.
Yes, ma'am. The max was 360 under Act 1099. I've been at 495 for maybe since 21 or 22. And I'm currently in a couple of classes now. One of you can get good time, but I do, since you asked the question, I do want to elaborate on something. The good time matters not if you're not willing to change and be the man that you need to be. And that requires it to be a lifestyle. Change and rehabilitation are just words. If there's no action behind it, it doesn't mean anything. And regardless of good time or not, I've wanted my actions since the date of my crime, regardless of what credit I'm given, I wanted it to reflect my prison record and the evidence of change. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you letting me answer your question.
I would offer my colleagues an opportunity to ask questions and then request to go into executive. They indicated they didn't want to speak. You have any questions?
Mr. Myers said that you had no plans on going back to Calcasieu Parish. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct. And I would like to tell you why, if you have a moment. I think a peaceful resolution to the eventual fact is I'm getting released from prison, obviously. But the most important thing is for the peace of the victim and their families. Listen, I've caused more harm and irreparable harm than I would have ever imagined, thought possible. The easiest way is to, I feel like, sacrifice. And I put the victims first. I really do, because this whole case is about them and my actions and what it did to them. So to relocate 2.5 hours away, I hope that would give them peace and comfort and security and ease any fear that they may have, because I'm certainly not a threat and I want to be able to approve it. And it also gives me the chance to start fresh, sir.
So would you agree to that being a lifetime thing or just the end of your parole thing? How do you feel about that?
Sir, whatever this board seems fit, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make amends for my crime. If that makes the victims and their families comfortable, then honestly, I'll do it. It's not even a question. If that's what you take comfort in, yes, sir.
Thank you.
So let me just ask, I have one question, Mr. David. I think in reviewing the record, at the time of this offense, you suffered some kind of mental health crisis?
Yes, ma'am.
And so do you currently see mental health?
I haven't in the last 25 years, Ms. Renata. Recently, I mean, I'm always transparent. With the death of my brother, mental health, unrelated to anything else, they did call and interview me about that. Just ask questions that they would do with any other individual, which I truly respected and I appreciated. But again, I want to back off of, yes, there was a mental health issue I was going on at the time, but I would never sit before you and make excuses as to the stupidity and selfish act that I committed. Taking responsibility and owning it and being accountable and changing that. And prison has taught me, and I would love to say this, please let me say this. If it wasn't for the Department of Corrections and the Allen Correctional Center administration, staff, and security, I probably wouldn't be sitting before you today. These people have single-handedly, aside from God and family, these people have single-handedly not only changed, but they saved the life of Derek Daigle due to, there was one constant thing when I woke up each day inside these walls. I was provided with the opportunity to make amends and the opportunity to rehabilitate and change. And if it wasn't for these people, these good people that went above and beyond their job, the Department of Corrections, I wouldn't be here. So thank you for sending me to prison, because that's what I needed. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, I don't see any other questions, Mr. Daigle. Is the panel prepared to vote? I think I'm prepared to vote. Mr. Daigle, my vote today is to grant parole to the Parole Project for a period of no longer than 3 months to get yourself on your feet, get some stability, and then to your residence plan with your brother. I would like to stipulate on the record that you are not to live in Calcasieu Parish.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not a healthy thing to do, and have no contact with your victims.
Yes, ma'am.
Family.
Yes,
No. Thank you. Mr. Mara.
I'm going to concur with Ms. Ledoux, but I'm going to up that parole project stay for 6 months. I need you to stay minimum of 6 months. And during that time, I want you to get a mental health evaluation and follow up on any recommendations for treatment. You've been through a lot yourself, and that you do not go to Lake Charles, as you said, for the rest of your life.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. Daigle. I've seen you before in another setting, but I do agree with my colleagues today based on what we've heard today, what the warden and the staff and the Oasis Project has said about you. I think you've demonstrated sincere remorse, and I like the idea that you're going to be on supervision for a little while before you complete your sentence. So this does not reduce your sentence, but we're just going to let you out in the community for a while.
I would say that somebody needs to bring him a surf and turf from Daryl's. If he cannot go back to Calcasieu Parish, that would be.
All right, good luck, Mr. Daigle.
Thank you, Committee on Parole. Thank you and God bless.
And Warden, that concludes our business at ALA. We're going to sign off. It's 10:04. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Well, Derek, I go to Baton Rouge all the time, so I'll get you the surf and turf.
Okay, they granted you, and you might be asking, where were the victims, and would have the outcome been different if the victims were there in opposition? And I think I would say yes, the outcome might have been, if he needed a unanimous vote, at least. You know, with it, they did the. I base this off of just yesterday they had a parole hearing for people who were like very sick. I'm talking about vegetables and wheelchairs, unable, fully paralyzed, or amputations, and at the end of life. And they had victims come up and say, no, I don't want them getting out. And they said, okay, you're not getting out. I'm talking about people who couldn't even communicate for themselves. They had an aide next to them. They're full veg. So why the victims didn't show up, who knows? I mean, we know. I almost feel like I'm not going to speculate for them. We have seen over the course different reasons for it. Sometimes they're just, they've come to an acceptance. They're done. You know, they know he's getting out in good time anyways in 2 years. They're done. They moved on. There are others where they're not notified, although that was something we saw very commonly in the last, when they first started doing these virtual things. And that's probably because it was happening all the time before they started doing virtual, but there was no YouTubers to blow it up and say, whoa, you guys weren't notifying the victim. We just didn't know about it. It's probably happening all the time. And then as it started to get attention, they got better at notifying victims. I don't think that's the reason why, but one never knows. But we have seen hearings where there are commutation hearings where they get commuted, there's no victim opposition, and then the person comes up for the parole hearing 8 months later, and the room is full of victims that are pissed off that they weren't notified about the commutation hearing. We've seen that many times. I don't think that's the case here, though, but who knows? One never knows. It can also be that's just too much trauma. You don't want to go through it. You don't want to go through that again. It hurts too much. So who knows why. Now, it was interesting. That woman was there again, advocating for him, Kathy with the Oasis Women's Shelter. And it just makes me ask that question. It makes me wonder why. Now, tell me if I'm wrong again, but this is one that's sticking to me. I cannot imagine why you think he is a good advocate to talk to women who are being abused by men. I don't get it. Lady, he's been locked up in a prison for the past 25 years. He has not been in the position to hurt a female. Like, what are you, like, why? I just don't get it. Now, look, we've seen he's done a lot. He's done all his programs. He's maxed out his good time. That's why he doesn't need to wait. Otherwise his full term was 2032. He didn't, who are all your victims? He didn't name, for example, the two people that stopped him. He didn't name those two people. I didn't think his remorse seemed anything special, in terms of that authenticity. But you tell me, what do you think? I'm not against him getting out 2 years before his full term date, whatever. There's no opposition here. I don't think he's going to reoffend either. But if he does, we'll cover the revocation hearing. It'll be in the return of playlist. Let's see what Lady Holly has for us on the facts of the day. Because we already covered the unpacking, if you skipped it over, we covered all the facts on this case already in the middle, and there was no appeal. So there's no like, it was interesting that he didn't have an appeal. I wonder why. Here's the request for, I guess, his commutation. You may, all right, facts of the day. You may not tap your feet, nod your head, or in any way keep time to the music in a tavern or cafe. What law is this? This law must be broken by, okay, this law must be broken by New Hampshire citizens daily. The source of this law is not easy to find, and it's not enforced today, but it is fun to think about a patron being reprimanded for enjoying music. So this is the law in New Hampshire. This sounds like a violation of your First Amendment in some way, doesn't it? I don't know. This is hard to believe. You may not tap your feet, nod your head, or in any way keep time to music in a tavern. I don't know about that. I got to see that one in writing. That sounds like a violation of First Amendment rights. But you never. It's probably, who knows? It could be true. Anyways, so with that, I'll let you go.
But incarceration is for rehabilitation. It's also for isolation. I don't think you are in need of rehabilitation at this point. I don't think you need to be isolated. It also has a third component, retribution. We have victims in this crime who are still physically and emotionally affected by your offenses.